Akatosh Odinson. The Draken Kaiser. The final phase. Name: Akatosh Odinson. Age: 400. Weight: 350 pounds. Eye color: topaz. Hair color: black. Love interest. Powers and traits. God of Evolution. Every time Akatosh has died, he's come back stronger and better, as he's known not to fear death, as he's embraced it a few times without fear, knowing the future was secure. God of Time. This has always been his primary power, as he is able to control everything that time can bring. He can manipulate the past events in the father of his liking. God of Dragons. His love for dragons have made him one of the feared gods amongst the 9 realms, as he can easily burn dynasties to ground with no care in the world. God of Reality. Also, that comes in handy in manipulating both time and evolution. It can cause an uprising that causes the very foundations of existence bending to his will as a god. God of Riches. When Akatosh sheds his scales, they are worth as the most expensive materials in craftsmanship, as all the dwarves are after the scales to build powerful armor and weapons, but the god won't allow it unless he trusts them. God of Fertility. Akatosh can impregnate anything that he touches to create more of an understanding of the world he's around, hence why he has a vanguard of dragons that serve as a hybrid force that can easily take over any realm he seems worthy. God of Royalty. As the king of Asgard and Vanaheim, he really can't get any more of a target on his back by the enemies of the 9 realms, but his marriage to Sparta's daughter Evelina also makes him the regent king of the demon world. God of Power. This comes from his time in the demonic worlds with his love interest Eva. When he died for the second time, Evelina infused their bloods together to make him immune from death, and this bids well after the end days of Ragnarok occurs, as Akatosh is the survivor of the Aesir, as he intact kills the other surviving gods and goddess, including his dearest mother Freya. Bio. This was shortly after his second death to the trickster god Loki. Akatosh was humiliated by this moment, as he laid there in darkness, consumed his own thoughts, as he felt a presence of something familiar, but he couldn't open his eyes to see the person or the female voice, but he knew the voice of the female. Once he had woken up from his unconscious state of mind, he stood up to face the trickery of Loki, as he laughed softly, as his eyes shifted from topaz to a blood-red gaze of lust of killing the god who put him down for the second time, as he hated the god of mischief and lies, as he drew Dracnian from its holster as the god roared, as this knocked Loki down onto his feet. Without hesitation, he slammed the blade through the skull of the god as he laughed softly. You really forget every time I die I become stronger and evolve into the next phase of existence. Seeing this reality was one Akatosh created, he was laughing softly as he was walking with severed skull of the former god, as he walked back to the throne room where Odin stood, as the once praised god of royalty was now more of a rough and brutal version of his former glory, but this didn't faze Akatosh, as the time in hell changed the one believed and loved god. He chose his family over duty for the first time, as he knew the demonic blood that infused his marriage to the queen of the demons made him stronger, and it made his dragon features more aware, as his scales replaced more of his once handsome pale skin tone, but he didn't seem to care, as evolution was always important to the god. Evelina made me see more clear of how much of a puppet you made me to be. I chose to walk a path, they sealed your fate. His once beautiful golden after was stained in the blood of his enemies, as he didn't seem to care about it, as he was walking away from the life he once loved into a path of chaos and heresy. The darkness had seduced him, and it's made his army change into more of a dragon than man or elf, as they sprouted wings and scales, as he called them, his vanguard, as they dissolved into sand particles. Vanaheim was his kingdom, and he knew his love for the Vanir was proven, as he sat back on the throne. He had changed the once beautiful throne into one made of skulls and gold spikes, as he sat down with Dragnian placed on the side of the throne, as he placed his face on his left hand, as he was sighing, as he was again overlooked by his father for being different to the perfect Thor. Powers and weapons of the Dragon Emperor. Dracnian. The arcane blade borne by Akatosh is so powerful that it can rend reality apart where the weapon strikes. Dracnian can rip through armor, flesh and bone without resistance. The demonic soul animating this spell weapon can alter the blade's appearance, revealing the skulls and faces of the souls it has devoured. This sword was once too powerful for the gods to control, but Akatosh mastered the blade and became its rightful owner. After all, he's the war master of the 9 realms. It is said Dracnian can take many forms, and it only appears as a great blade in the hands of Akatosh because that is how the War Master of the 9 realms chooses it to be. In truth, the sword has no real shape or size, at least nothing that could be understood by the mind of the realms. Why it chose to let Akatosh take it from its resting place beneath the Tower of Silence is also a mystery, though since that day only Akatosh has been able to wield it. If another warrior were brave enough to try and lift Dragnian, it would fall from his hands as if made of air, though not before rending the thief apart with warp energy. As to why Dragnian fights for Akatosh, none can say for sure, though such a pact can mean nothing but woe for the forces of the Nine Realms and all of Asgard. The Black Rage. The rage that was made the day the gods betrayed Akatosh and caused him to the deaths of his family that caused Akatosh to go into a deep berserk rage. The rage makes Akatosh kill friend or foe as he doesn't know who is who. Most chances, Akatosh locks himself away in a room to subdue the rage. Note that Draken Kaiser has survived this phase 5 times. He's become more stronger than the last phase. I dread to see what the future brings, the dragon god of time. The Red Thirst. This was a gene flaw inside of Akatosh when he was born. He was born to have a ceremonial sword that dips the blood of his people who are willing to be sacrificed for his name. Akatosh must drink blood regardless of the repercussions of his actions. This has made the god hated as he killed the innocent in the fury of the Black Rage to subdue the blood just in his eyes. Veil of Time. This allows Akatoshes to look into the future and make sure everything goes to plan as he is able to send himself into a battlefield and win wars single-handedly with this power. Fury Within. The more advanced cases of the Red Thirst affecting the King of the Gods, where he must consume the flesh of his blood-drained victims or he will become feral in nature as the dragon blood will burn his body. Unleash Rage. The phase of the Black Rage that causes Akatosh to unleash his utmost fury upon his foes, rendering them only smears of blood on the floor of the battlefield. Blood Lance. This allows Akatosh to manifest the blood of his fallen warriors to make a spear large enough to rip holes through the enemies of the god, and this causes death fast. Akatosh has always been a god who respected his opponents since he was young, as he showed promise, but he wasn't perfect like his brothers, as Odin favored him as they showed more of being worthy successors to his legacy. This dearly pissed off the firstborn son when he found out he wasn't made the war master of the armies, as he was obviously the best swordsman out of the gods. He held the most powerful relic blade on the Nine Realms. The seeds of jealousy was planted on that date. Dragnian's influence was bringing the god to see visions of his loved ones being slain, as he was becoming more of a danger to the gods, as he panted heavily as the modern day realistically saw the corpses of his family, his wife and children slaughtered by his brothers. This woke a dormant darkness that took over the god's eyes as he roared through the woodlands, as he sent fire underneath as they woodlands scorched to the floor. The death mask he wore hid his pain and emotions, as the ashes of his fallen legacy would cause him to find a new one. Evolution and time ran through his veins, and this caused the god to go on a hunting spree as he drew Dragnian, killing the sons of Thor, Magni and Modi, their souls and dying emotionless faces engraved into Dragnian's blade as he laughed softly as he left the butchered sons of Thor in a bloody broken mess, as his mouth and skin was covered and smeared in the blood of his dead nephews, as a unclenching thirst grew in his body as he licked the drying blood of his skin. He would travel the realm of the gods as he saw his brother Tyr was waiting for him, as he laughed softly. "Seriously brother, your one arm will get you killed," he said with a grin. Drawing Dragnian again, he would tear his younger brother into 4 separate parts as the blood showered the god of royalty's pale skin, as he didn't care. He walked away from the dead god's corpse as he didn't care. So much anger, so much rage. He said as the god was suddenly started to feel his black rage take over his body, as he could encircle his pain and emotions no more, as he traveled to the throne room of Asgard, as he pretty much sacked the castle, killing all of his brother's wives and children, laying their mauled corpses all over the castle, as he didn't care, as he had captured and killed. He didn't really care what happened to the corpses, if they rotted or were fed to his dragon. Seems like Odin, Thor and Loki left Asgard like cowards. He spoke softly with a soft laughter. He would sit on the throne he aspired to claim all his life, and he was known he would do. He has spared one of the goddess who he saw as a formidable wife for the future, as he knew she was Thor's daughter, but he wanted to humiliate his younger brother. The faces of the dead were etched into Dragnian's surface as he smiled softly as he drained the gods of their souls. He became something greater than the gods itself. He had called this his heresy of the gods. He would swear on the oath of his dead family he would get revenge for the demises. He remembered their faces as they made him smile, as he felt the sadness overcome his heart, as he felt the tears seeping from his eyes were softened with pain, as he heard footsteps of his mother Freya, who comforted him, as his mother was the only person who saw him to be vulnerable. "Why did they betray me? Did they fear Dragnian's power?" he asked her softly. He would announce the betrayal of the Aesir gods to the people of Asgard, and now the Vanir has full reigns of Asgard now. As the Emperor of the Nine Realms, if anyone is hiding information of the traitor gods, they will be condemned to a life of ravenous torture for a lifetime, he said, as he wasn't gonna allow this feud to die. "Your gods have abandoned you, but I won't. As the new king of Asgard, I'll burn their name, Odin, and the rest of my brothers to the ground. Look what I've done to their wives and children. This will be your fate if you lie to me." Bring me Heimdall now, he said with an angered tone as he was gonna torture his old all-seeing best friend for information. Once finding the location of Odin, Loki and Thor, he would laugh softly as he would make haste war plans to hunt the gods down, starting with Loki. As for you, old friend, he said to Heimdall, he would place his hands on his best friend and removed his all-seeing and hearing abilities, making the god blind and dead, permanently unable to use his powers for an act of betrayal of his loved one. You were my brother, and you betrayed me, and I will never forget or forgive you in a million lifetimes, he said with a sad tone as he walked away. Feed him to the dragons, and the remains of the gods as well. He wasn't thinking straight as he left, as he heard the crunching sound of bones being torn apart by his vanguard. Commenters Sebastian Morningstar. Back. Akatosh Odinson. Search. Profile switcher. Double tap to open a list of your profiles.